Welcome back to Paul's Tech News, and you know what? I think I'm gonna have a beer today. This is one Joe left here. It's called Battlesnake's Pilsner by Brewery X. But this week, Intel finally launched 10nm 12th gen desktop processors after years of delays and stopgap rehashed 14nm parts, and they're actually quite competitive, and for some, have reignited the AMD versus Intel battles of old, where Team Red and Team Blue fight it out, and we all benefit. That's not to say that the launch was without incident, so we'll discuss some of the stories that might have slipped by when the deluge of reviews went live on Thursday, and other stuff happened this week too, like a truckload of EVGA GPUs getting hijacked, Ethereum hitting an all-time high, and some intriguing advances to storage technology that might finally provide you with enough drive space to back up your shamefully expansive and scandalous collection of video games. Yeah, Steam games, that's what I meant to say. Did you think I meant something else?
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Micro Center, one of my favorite places to buy PC parts, whether it's online or at one of their 25 retail stores in the US. They have consistently competitive prices and an excellent selection of PC hardware and other tech goodies, as well as the custom PC builder on the Micro Center website. Use it to spec out your rig and it will show you parts in stock at your nearest store while ensuring compatibility with your selections. Then you can pick up or have their pros assemble it for you. So click the sponsor link in the description and don't forget to sign up for the free in-store gift. Cheers though, guys, and thanks for being here. We begin today with a roundup, a summary, if you will, of the broad range of articles and videos that have posted with Alder Lake reviews in the last few days since the Intel 12th gen embargo lifted on Thursday morning. On the plus side, it didn't just immediately suck like the 11th gen CPUs mostly did, with massive gains to single-core performance in particular that placed the new 12600, 12700, and 12900K and KF CPUs as much as 50 to 70% ahead of 10th or 11th gen CPUs. Comparing Intel to itself provides the most favorable view of Alder Lake's gains, so don't be surprised if many reviewers, myself included, are giving Intel credit for just doing what they used to do all the time, launching a new platform and CPU lineup with demonstrable and consistent improvements over last gen that don't just boil down to a modest clock speed bump while still using the same underlying architecture and lithography. On the more middling side, AMD 5000 series CPUs are still quite competitive versus Alder Lake, with the 5950X still beating the 12900K in a lot of productivity tasks. This is especially evident if you're considering power draw. The Ryzen chips still sit in the 100 to 125 watt range at stock, while Intel's i7 pulls 190 watts and the i9 pushes that to 241 watts, which can also necessitate a higher-end cooler like a 360mm all-in-one. Intel's new CPUs do have an edge over AMD if you're looking at CPU-limited gaming tests, like high frame rate 1080p gaming with less than ultra settings, but for many gamers it's not enough to warrant an upgrade, particularly when those gains disappear when you play at higher resolutions. On the minus side though, new platform adoption can get quite pricey if you want a quality Z690 motherboard, and particularly expensive if you want a speedy new DDR5 memory kit to pair it with. Apart from being pretty much sold out at many retailers that I have checked, a new and very bare-bones 16GB DDR5 kit, 2x8 gigs, with no heat spreader, and entry-level DDR5 4800 speed goes for about $140 right now, and that price quickly doubles, triples, or quadruples if you want a 32 or 64 gig kit, to say nothing of a faster speed or RGB lighting, which of course is always worth the upgrade cost. A comparable DDR4 kit costs half that amount. Launch day was not drama-free, of course, and it started early with Linus posting his review video a full 8 hours before the embargo, which was set for 6 AM Pacific time on Thursday morning. The LTT review video was quickly taken down, but not before multiple copies had been downloaded and redistributed across the internet, because you can't remove something from the internet once it's there, remember? It's like peeing in a swimming pool. Linus and his team will now be subjected to an intense and thorough investigation, of course, with depositions before a formal industry tribunal slated for next week, after which time carefully deliberated and appropriate punishments will be swiftly enforced to ensure a similar transgression never occurs in the future. I'm just kidding. None of that will actually happen. You may have also seen some impressive overclocking results for the new Alder Lake CPUs on Thursday, but do note that quite a few of them were bullshit. As described by DocTB on Twitter, a known issue with CPU-Z was causing it to misreport 12th gen CPU frequencies. Pro overclockers like Der Bauer have confirmed that even with exotic cooling, Alder Lake tops out at about 7 GHz, maybe pushing to 7.5 or 7.6 for short runs while hunting for world records, but some overclockers took the misrepresented CPU-Z frequencies and ran with them, claiming to have hit 8 GHz or even 9, 10, or 12 plus. Gigabyte took this one step further, posting about these overclocking records on their Oris Spain Twitter account on November 3rd, breaking the embargo even worse than Linus did. Media outlets picked up on the news, and now multiple articles are out in the wild broadcasting the erroneous information, many of which still haven't been corrected. Der Bauer had some choice words for HighCookie in particular, one of Gigabyte's in-house pro overclockers, for knowingly publishing the results even though he was aware of the reporting bug.
I'm very mad.
And I share in his frustration. Many reviewers have been spending exorbitant amounts of time in recent weeks to get real, valid performance results to share with the world on launch day, and to have disinformation like this muddying the waters is a disservice to every one of them, particularly if it was done with malice of intent. To set the record straight though, here are some actual Alder Lake records, starting with a DDR5 speed of 8,704 megatransfers per second, achieved by overclocker Hokkaido with an ASUS ROG Maximus Z690 Apex motherboard, a 12600KF, and a G.Skill Trident Z5 kit. Swedish overclocker Elmore also clocked new records for PiFast, Geekbench 3, and Cinebench R20 using the same setup, hitting an all-P-core frequency of 7,543 MHz. Most of these records will probably be surpassed in the coming days, but it's good to see professionals getting results right out of the gate. With all the talk about the 6 CPU SKUs Intel actually launched this week though, you might have forgotten that they usually have a lot more CPUs in their stack than that, and this is just a partial launch of higher-end options on the platform. If you're holding out for a more budget-friendly Alder Lake processor, consider this early review of the still unannounced Core i5-12400F, a 6P-core, 6-thread CPU with no E-cores that French media outlet Compteur Hardware got their hands on, as reported by videocards.com. This is the one that MSI showed last week, with a smaller die than i7 counterparts, but they were testing an engineering sample that could be an early revision, so take their results with a grain of salt. It appears to have a 65-watt TDP and a max turbo power of 117 watts with a 4.4 GHz peak single-core frequency that drops to 3.4 GHz on all cores after power limits expire. Single-core performance is about 15% below Alder Lake i7 and i9 CPUs, but still ahead of AMD's 5000 series, while all core results put it in the same ballpark as a 6-core Ryzen 5600X or 8-core 3700X. If this CPU costs around $200 and the gaming performance holds up, it could easily be the new go-to recommendation for budget gaming rigs. One final note on Alder Lake: probably don't upgrade to it, at least for now, if you're a fan of any of these 50 games that don't currently work on the platform due to how their DRM works. Denuvo DRM sees Alder Lake's E-cores as a different CPU, basically, and force quits the game to prevent what it believes is 2 PCs trying to play one game on the same key, which is super convenient. The fix seems to be a legacy game compatibility mode that will need to be enabled via a motherboard BIOS setting, which is also super convenient since most motherboards don't even have this option available yet. Also, enabling it just disables your CPU's E-cores, which kind of gimps your CPU, at least until you turn them back on again, which, again, just incredibly convenient. The full list of games is in the article. Some are affected with Windows 10 and 11, and the rest are only problematic with Windows 10. Let's talk about cryptocurrency now. Late last week, a new coin called Squid, that took its name from the popular Netflix series Squid Game, emerged as a hot new commodity, with its value skyrocketing over 2,000% in a couple days, which is a classic indicator that shady dealings are afoot. And indeed, thanks to news outlets like the BBC and Business Insider hyping the coin's growth, the scam appears to have been a success. Monday morning, the price of Squid peaked at $2,861, and then the rug pull was initiated. The scammers cashed out, and the price dropped to zero. Much like this guy, or this guy, or this lady, or all these people, Squid is now dead. If reporters had done even the slightest bit of due diligence, they would have caught red flags, like the horrendous grammar in the coin's white paper, or the fact that it was pretty much impossible to cash out once you'd invested in it. Gizmodo pointed this out, to be fair, but not before sad investors like this dude in Shanghai lost every dollar that they put in. So lesson to be learned here, guys: don't drop your life savings on a mysterious new cryptocurrency, no matter how much you liked watching a bunch of poor people die in Squid Game. Oops. Spoilers. Crypto hype is everywhere though, and legitimate coins like Ethereum are seeing continued boosts for reasons you might not expect, like Mark Zuckerberg's Metaverse announcement last week, because the Metaverse will obviously use digital currency and NFTs and stuff like that, and it's inevitable because Facebook wills it to be so, and so speculators are speculating and the price has gone up. to an all-time high, in fact, of $4,664 on Wednesday, which is good for ETH miners and investors, and not so good for PC gamers who are still holding out for the end of this interminable GPU shortage. The unlinking of Ethereum's value and GPU pricing isn't likely while GPU mining is still viable though, so we'll have to keep our sights set on the ETH 2.0 proof-of-stake transition that is currently expected in 2022. Hopefully early 2022. And great job, Facebook, on finding yet another circuitous way to make our lives more miserable. Speaking of a miserable lack of GPUs, there are even fewer available to consumers now, as EVGA reported Wednesday that a truck full of their cards, ranging in price from $330 to $1,960, was stolen en route from San Francisco to their Southern California distribution center last Friday. EVGA product manager Jacob Freeman made the news known with a post on the EVGA forums, pointing out that you shouldn't attempt to buy stolen GPUs as it's against the law, and if you think your card was among the stolen batch, you can check by registering it or checking the serial number on their warranty page. There's an email address for reporting any known info about the heist too. While the specifics of the theft weren't detailed at all, most comments I've seen firmly believe that it was definitely just like the high-speed truck hijacking from Fast and the Furious, which makes sense because movies are always just like real life, and the thieves would definitely have used green LED underglow on their black Civics to align with the stealing NVIDIA GPUs theme. It's time for tech briefs, now even better optimized than Alder Lake efficiency cores. The week started off with some sad news as David Ross, the proprietor of popular UK-based tech websites Hexus.net and BitTech.net, announced that both outlets are closing their doors. The reasons seem to be personal, as the tech industry does wear on you after a while, and Hexus has been up and running since 1998, with BitTech launching in the year 2000. The Hexus.net forums will remain in service since they have a large community there, and popular contributing editors have already announced that they will be moving on to new projects. I can never have quite enough storage, so WD's new 20 terabyte hard drives sound like a good idea to me, featuring OptiNAND technology that stores metadata about your data, which is very meta indeed. The beefy mechanical drives are expected to ship later in November and are the precursors to even more capacious units WD plans to produce, ramping up to 50 terabyte drives in the next 5 to 10 years. That's probably about how long it would take to do a full format on one of these drives too. If 20 or 50 terabytes isn't quite enough to store your unique and esoteric collection of pictures and videos that definitely isn't porn, consider the new 5D technology being developed by researchers at the University of Southampton over in the UK. They used a high-speed laser to write data in silica glass in 5 dimensions, 2 optical and 3 spatial. The method allows for data density that is 10,000 times higher than current Blu-ray technology, and while the write speeds are a bit slow, 230 kilobytes per second, it can potentially store 500 terabytes of data in a piece of glass that can fit in the palm of your hand and will pretty much last forever unless the glass breaks. That's not bad, but still probably won't fit your whole Steam library. Facebook, meanwhile, has decided to shut down their facial recognition program, a move that has been positively received by many due to privacy concerns and the continuing push for more transparency in how our lives are shared online. Auto-tagging will go away, and they'll be deleting more than 1 billion people's individual facial recognition templates. While I'm sure that Facebook, or Meta now, will continue to do other nefarious things behind the scenes without our knowledge or consent, this at least is a good move that we can applaud for the time being. Finally, more mysterious activity on Twitch has been uncovered by the data breach back in October. This time it's money laundering schemes being perpetrated by Turkish streamers via bit donations. Since Twitch bits have a monetary value of about 1 cent per bit, perpetrators would use stolen credit cards to buy bits and then donate large amounts to streamers who were in on the scam. The streamer then refunds most of the donations, keeping a 20 to 30% cut for themselves. The Turkish site Haberler, which I'm pronouncing perfectly, says more than 2,400 Turkish streamers participated to some extent, and nearly $9.9 million was laundered. Large bit donations to streamers with minuscule view counts was the tip-off. But there you have it, guys, my large donation of tech news to you. And although it was an eventful week, I'm glad the big Intel launch is over so we can move on with the rest of our year. Your feedback is always welcome though, so please feel free to leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all the articles I talked about today are linked in the description if you're interested in further reading. And you can also click the like button if you enjoyed this video. Check out my store at paulshardware.net for a selection of excellent merchandise options. And subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more videos like this one in the future. Thanks again, everyone. Cheers, and we'll see you next week.